There's a story to tell about the history of money, one that might just change how we have always pictured it. While much of Europe found itself navigating what we now call the Dark Ages, a time of feudal kingdoms, dusty roads, and merchants often haggling over coins they couldn't even fully trust, a sophisticated global financial system was already thriving across three continents. This system boasted a standardized currency, early forms of investment that resembled what we now call venture capital, a sprawling international payments network, and commercial laws that held sway from the shores of Spain all the way to Central Asia. What's more, this entire structure was built upon Islamic principles. You see, roughly between the 8th and 13th centuries, the Islamic world wasn't just another player in the global trade game. It effectively served as the very infrastructure for that trade. The Abbasid Caliphate, for example, transformed Baghdad into what could be considered the world's first true financial nerve center. It sat perfectly at the crossroads of the Silk Road, the vital Indian Ocean routes, and the Mediterranean networks. This was long before cities like London or Venice rose to prominence, and certainly before New York even began to take shape as a concept. Baghdad, at its peak, was the largest, most connected commercial city on earth, a home to somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million people. It's worth pausing to consider this. For a significant period, the world's financial heartbeat resonated not from Europe, but from Middle East. And the tools they developed to run this system were truly ahead of their time. Consider the money itself. Abbasids standardized gold dinars and silver dirhams across their vast territory, stretching from Morocco all the way to Persia. These coins maintained a consistent weight and purity enforced throughout the entire region. Locals were striking coins of widely varying weights and metals, forcing merchants to reweigh and retest every single coin in every transaction. The Islamic system, by contrast, removed all that inconvenience. A single coin adhering to a single standard could be trusted whether one was in Morocco or on the borders of Persia. But the story gets even more interesting here, because classical Islamic law had certain restrictions regarding pure interest-based lending. The entire financial system was found itself needing to be remarkably creative. What emerged were contract structures far from sophisticated than anything Europe had developed at the time. A concept called mudaraba, for instance, worked much like what we now recognize as venture capital. Here, an investor offered funds while an entrepreneur brought their skills, and any profits were shared between them. The investor accepted the financial risk, and the entrepreneur took on the challenge of making the venture succeed. This structure, in essence a limited partnership, existed centuries before similar arrangements were formally recognized in Europe. Then there was the Sabt, an early version of what we now know as a check. A merchant in Baghdad could write a document, essentially an instruction telling a money changer in Cairo to pay a specific amount to a named individual. There was no longer any need to physically carry precious gold across vast, often dangerous deserts. Only paper, trust, and a reliable network of agents who respected the system were required. This practice stands as a direct ancestor to the modern check and the letter of credit. The Havana system took this idea even further, a value transfer network built entirely on trust, where agents in different cities would settle up with each other later through trade and offsetting financial flows, allowing substantial sums to move across borders without any physical money changing hands at all. Even today, researchers often point to it as an early, almost spiritual model for our modern international wire transfers. The Karimis, a powerful group of Muslim merchant families active from the 11th to 13th centuries, ran operations that historians now compare to early multinational corporations. They controlled significant trade in spices, textiles, and luxury goods across multiple continents. Their business relied on written contracts, profit sharing agreements, and intricate supply chains managed through vast networks of agents spread across different cities. Europe had nothing remotely comparable in its commercial dealings during that same period. And here is a fact many people find quite surprising. When Italian merchants from Venice and Genoa began to expand their reach across the Mediterranean, they encountered this advanced Islamic financial infrastructure firsthand in North Africa. They observed the suck in use, witnessed Hawala-style credit networks facilitating transactions, and saw sophisticated merchant partnerships in action. They then adapted what they learned into their own emerging banking systems. The bills of exchange and letters of credit, often lauded as European innovations, were in many instances direct borrowings of these established Islamic practices. It seems modern Western banking ultimately grew upon the foundation of an older system, one that few people ever truly talk about. The dominance of this system eventually began to wane. The Mongol sack of Baghdad in 1258 destroyed the Abbasid Caliphate's central hub. Fall of Granada in 1492 then removed Islamic finance's primary gateway into Europe. And as European powers developed fractional reserve banking and established colonial trade networks that bypassed the traditional Islamic centers, the heart of global finance slowly but surely shifted westward. Yet the fundamental architecture those cities once operated on, the idea of checks, the various credit instruments, the structures for business partnerships, those ideas never truly disappeared. They simply found new homes.